Hello, my name is Markel Taylor. I am the marketing director for ABO's Marketing. I developed the Rebuild Your Mind Mental Health Challenge and Initiative while I was incarcerated. At the time, I was suicidal and facing a life sentence and didn't even know I had mental health issues. As a result, I received the treatment and I now am here in the community working with therapists. I sit here today with Rocky Mountain Solutions therapist by the name of Calyn Crow. Would you please kind of introduce yourself and explain what you do, your company, and about your book?
Sure, my name is Calyn, and I'm a licensed professional counselor. I'm a certified addictions counselor and a trained mediator. I've been in the mental health field for over 20 years. Got my start working in the addictions field with folks who struggle managing addictions.
Right.
From there, went on to work for the Department of Defense and provided mental health services to organizations, employees, managers, supervisors, provided mediation. From there, I traveled nationally and internationally with the military and worked directly with the military and their families on deployment issues, PTSD, all sorts of varying unique challenges that the military face. And then from there started private practice and have been in private practice for about 5 years and primarily work with individuals and couples and do a lot of family mediation or couples mediation.
Right. Now, I'm not a journalist, but because I suffer from these issues, I would like to ask, what brought you into this field? What made you decide to want to help the psychologically and the emotionally injured? So that takes a personal interest. What actually brought you into this field?
I think there's a couple things. First and foremost, I had a psychology teacher in high school. Her name is Angie Piccioni. She's pretty well known around the community, but she had an interesting start to life. Grew up in the Bronx. She went to Stanford and played basketball in the Olympics the year that they were boycotted, but she was really good basketball person. And then she became a teacher, and she was my psychology teacher and she was my basketball coach.
Wow.
And prior to teaching, I believe she worked for Excelsior Youth Center for girls, and she always talked about the stories, you know, and the situations that came up when she was working there, and I was always inspired by what she was doing, and I think that's probably what you know, lit the spark for me. And then I think as I, you know, went through my education and training and became an adult and obtained more life experience, I realized how much I had struggled as an adolescent, and not knowing that I had, you know, pretty intense emotions around a lot of things.
Right.
Let alone have the skills to manage them. And I always thought about, you know, I wonder how things would be had I had somebody to talk to with the stuff that I had going on. So I think it's kind of twofold, and then the actual approach that I use in my work is just so empowering.
Wow. That's a blessing.
And so, just the reward that comes with seeing people and just teaching people that it's about skills, that it's skills. It's not like we're born with it or we're not, and if we're not and we don't have it, we can never have it. You know, the stuff around managing emotions is all skill-based, and people have the tools inside, they just need to learn how to use them.
Well, I'm going to tell you what inspires me about this particular interview with you is you right out the gate begin to talk about your experiences and emotional irregularities, and that's one thing that ABO's Marketing is doing. We are destigmatizing the mental health disorders, and our goal is to transform Colorado into the most efficient trauma-informed, trauma-conscious, and trauma-responsive states. I would like to thank you for speaking about your experience. Do you believe that there's a huge stigma behind these mental health disorders? And if so, why? Why would you believe it, you know?
Well, it's tough for me because I'm in it day in and day out. And I
Right.
have been for 20 plus years. So I forget that there's a stigma. When people come in here, I ask them, have you done therapy before? And I have to remind myself that for a lot of people, it's a huge step to walk through those doors and to have made the appointment. But for me, I'm just so entrenched in it, it just seems normal to me. But part of my job is to normalize it. And I do, let people know that we all have issues. I often say that we should have been assigned a therapist at birth just to have someone kind of go through life with us and all of our ups and downs. In the work that I do here too. I mean, I get people going to a point where they can go back out into life, and then, if they need to come back for a tune-up or a check-in, that's completely normal.
That's one of the things that, like, I wasn't able to identify it. They state that 1 in 4 individuals in the state of Colorado suffer from these mental health and psychological and emotional issues. I believe that those are the only ones that have placed a claim or been able to identify it. You stated earlier about your own experiences. You're a therapist. That's why I say you inspire me, and I believe you're going to inspire other therapists. You heard what Miss Calyn Crow stated with Rocky Mountain Solutions about we all have them, and that's one of the goals is to let people see this. What solutions or what therapy do you normally use or do you believe is most effective when you are treating individuals? You spoke something about solution focus or something like that. And
it's solution focused brief therapy.
okay.
And I can tell you more about that, but I would like to speak just one more thing to what you said about everyone having issues. Grief is a part of life. Do you know what grief is?
I mean, I've went through the class. I know that there's a cycle to grief, but I still don't fully understand. I know it's when a person suffers from visceral sensations internally, and I believe it's only when you can't regulate your emotions or control your impulses that grief begins to control the neural pathways in your brain or whatever. Would you explain? Explain to them people what grief really is.
To me, grief is just a process that we all go through in varying situations. I think sometimes when I hear grief, I think, oh, somebody passed away, so I'm going to go through this grief process. But I think grief happens throughout our lifetimes in many different ways. Yes, when we've experienced loss, but we experience loss in a lot of different ways, from one job to the next. Maybe we have been let go from a job. Divorce is loss.
Right.
Your parent or your kids growing up and going on to college is a loss. Losing a friend, losing a parent, losing a friendship. There's all these different life events that happen, and so I just think, grief is that process we go through anytime we experience a significant change. And if we don't, learn to acknowledge and recognize the emotions that come along with these changes, oftentimes they can get stuck. And I think when emotions get stuck and they aren't resolved, that just leads to then another layer.
Right.
Per se.
Can you explain a little bit about the solution-focused treatment?
Yes.
And why you believe in it so much, and the outcome or the results that you've seen from actually administering this type of treatment, and kind of talk a little bit about the book that you're a part of. So please explain to the world. You have an opportunity now to explain to someone else about the solution-focused treatment.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, solution-focused brief therapy is my primary mode of therapy. It's an approach I learned way back in graduate school, and one of the things that drew me to this is that the whole premise is that the client is the expert. The client is the expert on their own lives, not the therapist, not the doctor.
Wow.
I mean, you live in your life, you live in your family, you have your friends, you know what the dynamics are better than anybody else.
Right. So I want to ask this. I suffered childhood what they consider adverse childhood experiences, childhood trauma, neglect, abandonment, attempted sexual molestation, went through where dad induced me with drugs and alcohol. My community was smoking weed and drinking at 9, 10 years old. How would this treatment help a person like me be able to regulate my emotions effectively, be able to regulate my impulses or control my impulses? How would this treatment help me personally?
Well, if you came into my office, I would be operating under the assumption that you want something different. You
Okay.
want something in your life to be different.
Okay.
Something is important to you. I'm not going to assume what it is at that point,
Right.
but I'm going to start operating from this place of you wanting to change. And I would start to ask questions that get you to think about what's important to you, why are you here? What do you need from me? Like, what do you want to be different, and help you start creating this vision, this map, this destination, whatever you want to call it, in terms of how you want things to be in your life.
So what would that process look like? I come to you, I don't know what I want, I'm trapped, I know I need help, everybody keep telling me I need help. What would the process look like as far as the solution focused treatment that would kind of snap me out? Sometimes we're frozen psychologically in time to deal with our issues like we did as a children, like myself. So what would that look like for a person like me, kind of? You know what I mean?
Which you're just like anybody else.
Okay,
You know?
right.
I mean, we're all people, we're all human. And at the end of the day, we all have something that we want.
Right.
And so I would be asking you, so your friends think you need to be here.
Right, right.
You know, your doctor says you need to be here. Why are you here?
I need help.
Okay,
I need
so
help, and I don't know how to
with
regulate
what?
my emotions. I
Okay.
don't know how to control my impulses. I'm snappy all the time. How can you help me not be so snappy? How can you help me not be so emotional? I'm up, down, I'm a wreck.
So can I ask you a question?
Yes, you sure can.
Um,
I want the world
kind
to
of
see
a little different. It's a little out there.
Okay.
But I think it's a very effective question.
Okay.
Okay. So I want you to imagine that when you leave here tonight,
Okay.
you know, you're gonna go on with the rest of your day, the rest of your evening. You're gonna do what you normally do for dinner, get ready for bed.
Right.
And I want you to imagine that tonight when you go to sleep, a miracle happens.
What kind?
Okay.
Anything?
Not a religious type of miracle, but just a miracle in the sense of like something extraordinary has
Okay.
happened to you.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
In the middle of the night while you're sleeping.
Okay.
You wake up tomorrow morning and you don't know the miracle happened because you were asleep.
Right.
What's the first thing, Markel, that's going to let you know that this miracle happened and that, you know, what brought you to therapy is no longer an issue? How will your life be different?
If I didn't receive the treatment, or if I did.
If a miracle happens
If the
and
miracle
what you
happens.
came here for no longer exists.
Wow, that's big. I think things would be normalized. I believe
So
in
what's normal? So we're gonna back up. You're still laying in bed
Okay.
and you open your eyes and you know that time in the morning when you're like just coming to, and you start to realize, oh, I'm waking up.
Right.
What would be the first thing that would let you know that you have this ability to manage your emotions?
I don't know.
What would be different?
I don't know. Teach me. That's why we're here,
It's
to teach
okay.
the world. What would be?
I don't know. You gotta tell me.
Maybe not getting up so fast, not moving too quickly.
Okay,
out
so
of bed.
what would you be doing instead?
Laying there, maybe just kind of thinking,
What
You
would you
know?
be thinking about?
and I didn't have the emotional. Probably something peaceful if I.
Yeah?
Maybe,
Like what? What's peaceful to you?
maybe not arguing with my girlfriend that day, or not
Would she
slashing
be
up.
waking up next to you?
I would hope.
Okay, so what would she notice about how you were waking up?
That
and
I'm
your
not so
interaction?
snappy. I'm not getting out of bed as fast as I normally am.
So how would you be instead?
How would I be?
Yeah. you're telling me what you're not going to be, which is great.
Be more peaceful.
But I want to know, what this peace looks like.
No conflict, no bickering, no.
So would you be like just turning over and staring at her? Would you?
Oh,
would you
probably
say,
yes.
Good morning, honey.
Instead of waking up mad or angry from the argument.
What would she hear you say?
I love
if you were in
you.
this peaceful place.
I love you.
I love you.
Yes,
Aw.
I appreciate you. I thank you. Is this the treatment? Is this
This is one
is
of the
good.
biggest, probably one of the most important questions. Really just designed to get people to think about how they want their life to be different. Because what we focus on gets bigger. If you're focused on the conflict and you're focused on the bickering and you're focusing on this, that is what consumes you. If you're focused on the depression, if you're focused on what's not working, if you're focused on the anxiety, then that's what consumes you. So the idea of solution-focused brief therapy is to help you think about what's different, what's there instead of all the issues. And once you start focusing on that, it's amazing how that starts to feed off of itself.
Right. Have you seen great results with this type of treatment in your field? Like with a lot of your clients, have you seen good results? Like what percentage of your clients truly have stated that this has changed my life? Like with me, Nina Minagawa gave me mindful meditation, and it changed my life. That with EMDR and some other things. Thank you, Dr. Nina Minagawa. I appreciate you. But with your clients, what do you believe?
I believe that this is a kind of mindfulness. It just, okay, so
what's the name of that book? Would you?
This is Solution Focused Brief Therapy with Clients Managing Trauma. There's kind of been some, I don't know, talk out there about how solution-focused therapy...
Like a stigma or something?
A stigma, so to speak, yeah. That you can't really use this type of therapy with clients who've experienced trauma. And this book is all about therapists who use solution-focused brief therapy on a daily basis with clients who experience significant trauma. So each chapter is written by a different therapist. And I was asked to write a chapter on working with the military and PTSD.
Wow.
And
so you actually have a chapter in this book.
I have a chapter in here.
And what's the name of this book? What is it?
Solution Focused Brief Therapy with Clients Managing Trauma.
Oh, yes.
And there's several different editors.
You guys hear that? You guys hear that? And she has a chapter in the book. You need to read it. And we want to get this treatment into every business. We need to have a conglomeration of treatment. You know what I mean? To where we can touch more and more lives. And so, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say one thing that I like about this approach too is I do a lot of mediation with couples. I go into organizations and I work with employees who are struggling with conflict and managers and supervisors, and I think that this approach lends itself nicely to that as well. It gets people out of the problem-focused mindset and into solutions and how they're going to be interacting. I mean, you have a pretty solid sense now how you want to wake up with how you want to wake up with your girlfriend tomorrow morning.
Yes.
So tomorrow, I wonder if you're going to be more likely to focus on this love, this affection, this appreciation.
Instead of
now that we've talked about it,
right.
You've said it out loud, it's in the forefront of your brain.
Right. Well, for me, I have a really good relationship, but with mine, there are people out there that don't have even a good relationship with their own bodies, with their own internal landscape. And that's kind of, I think, what happened with me, where my doctor began to point towards internal, like you're doing right now. It's all about the internal, not the trauma, not the what they call the narrative, change the narrative. And so what you're doing is absolutely awesome. That's why ABOS is here. It's, amazing to talk to therapists and connect to therapists, especially for us, because we've suffered these things. I've suffered in silence. So I'm suffering in silence. Right now, someone is suffering in silence. What would you say to that person that's suffering in silence and that don't want to go no longer, don't want to live no more? What would you say to them? Talk to them right now, please, Calyn, because they need you.
I would say most importantly, these are skills, these are life skills that we likely weren't taught as a child. You know, I think parents do the best that they can with the skills that they have, with the education, knowledge, life experiences they've had. But it's not that we were either born with these abilities or we weren't born with them, and that if we weren't born with them that we're never going to have them. That's not the case.
Right.
These are skills that can be taught, they can be learned, they have to be practiced. But we can create the kind of life and relationships that we want, and
So
hopefully you can find a safe space to do that in,
right.
or somebody with.
Right. And if you could transform Colorado into the most trauma-informed, trauma-conscious, and trauma-responsive states where people understand the trauma. People can now, they're conscious to it, they're aware of it, they can identify it, and then they can become trauma-informed. They understand the effects. So identify, understand the effects, how it affects the body, the brain, the visceral sensations, the organs, and then turn around and be trauma responsive themselves. What is it that you would do to transform the state of Colorado into that? You've been in it 20 years.
Right. Well, one thing I've noticed recently, just actually last night, I was watching Grey's Anatomy, guilty pleasure. But in that show, they were talking, they had a scene where two people exhibited what mutual consent around having sex is like.
Right.
You know, in a show, a popular show that a lot of us watch, they kind of showed what it looks like to give consent both ways. And I think that which I thought, wow, this is amazing that this is now being played out in TV. You know, they're talking about mental health. They're talking about all of these different things that have not been talked about before. And so I'm like really excited to see that happening, and that kids are watching these shows and now getting these messages that it's important to have, you know, mutual consent when making decisions like this. They're talking about mental health. So I just think we really need to just keep talking about it and educating people. One of the things that I appreciated most, I used to work out at Buckley Air Force Base, and we had this one commander who was just amazing. And I worked for the EAP, the Employee Assistance Program, and so I was kind of like the in-house mental health clinician there. And one of the commanders was really behind mental health and believed that, you know, we're only as strong as our weakest link, and so the more that, you know, people can get to take care of their personal and professional issues, the better off we all are.
Right.
And I remember walking down the hall, it was kind of a busy hall, and he was like, "Hey, Calyn, I need to get on your calendar." He said that out loud to
let people know that I need help.
That I'd go to her too.
That's right.
You know? And I was
Wow.
like, I thanked him later, and I said, you don't even know, like, what that did. Like, several people heard that, and they kind of all just was like, you know, like,
Yes.
the commander gets to the EAP?
Yes.
And I said, that was just, like, the best marketing that you could have done for our office.
Wow.
And I just think that that's really empowering. I think people don't realize how much influence they have on each other, you know? And I'm always telling people in the workplace, we spend so much time working with people, day in and day out. Sometimes spend more time with our coworkers than we do our family and friends. And that if we notice somebody struggling, to say something, check in with them. Are you okay?
Wow.
You know, I noticed you've been coming in late several times this past month. Are you okay? And to remind people that the people that are in a good place haven't lost perspective. They're in a good place, and they're in a really good position to help people that may be in a tough place or a dark place. You know, you can help somebody, remind them of their resources. You know, we've got an employee assistance program. You know that you've got 3 free sessions through, you know, our benefits.
How about saying that I suffer from some of those same issues,
I've been
and
there.
you can't
Yeah,
have
I've been
you?
there.
Wow.
No, I'm just saying that is
I've
something
been
you can
there.
say.
That's
yeah.
right. I
I've
know.
been there. It sucks.
Right.
And you know, I can't believe how many people go to therapy and don't say they go to therapy.
Right. Because it's the stigma.
Because
they don't want
stigma.
people to look at their and you can transform those vulnerabilities into triumphs and touch someone else's life. Kind of like what we're doing. You know, me, incarcerated, 21 years, faith in life, get the treatment. It's embarrassing for me to tell people it used to be I was suicidal because it seemed like it's a weakness. But we're transforming our weaknesses into strengths. A couple of more questions and then we'll wrap up. One thing is that our goal, ABO's goal through the Rebuild Your Mind Mental Health Challenge and Initiative is to help bridge the gap between individuals that need treatment and the treatment itself. That's why we're sitting here with you today, because we want to be able to send people to you. We want to be able to let people know it's okay and that she suffered things too. So you're going to be talking to a real psychologist that actually suffered it. So do you believe that ABOS and the Rebuild Your Mind is taking the proper approach to help aggressively attack these issues by sitting with therapists, by talking to you guys, by getting your treatment on camera? Do you believe that we're doing the right thing to help transform lives?
Absolutely. I think Colorado is progressive in so many different initiatives, and I just look at this as being one more thing that we're just kind of leading the way on. And
So
the more we talk about it, the more we focus on it, the bigger it can get. And
wow. So you support the Rebuild Your Mind?
absolutely.
You guys hear that? We have Calyn Crow from Rocky Mountain Solutions support to Rebuild Your Mind. Now, you know this is a challenge. It's the Rebuild Your Mind Challenge. You are a therapist. You get to challenge anyone to help us destigmatize. We have to destigmatize. People are out there dying. Every 12 minutes, someone suffers in silence and commits suicide. We're working side by side. ABO's marketing with the mental health field. We're here with Calyn Crow, 20 years specialist in this field. If you can challenge anybody to stand with us to help us destigmatize and transform Colorado, who would it be? Who would you challenge? Look directly into them and any doctor, any therapist that you know, anyone that will help us save lives. Who would it be? You get 3 challenges. Make it count.
Okay, well, I have a couple of thoughts on that, and
Okay.
one is I want to challenge men in particular.
Okay.
I think that they get the raw end of the stick sometimes because from
That's
birth
good.
they're being told, to suck it up, pull up the bootstraps.
Wow.
You can't have any emotions. You're a sissy or you're this, you're that. I mean, we're literally teaching little boys not to be human. And so we wonder why we have, so many men with anger management issues. And I'm not saying men are the only ones with anger
But you're
management
saying
at
it's
all. But
prevalent in our the
right.
men.
I think women, it's more socially acceptable to talk to your girlfriends, talk to your mother, talk to your sister, go to a therapist. There's just cry if you need to cry. Like, there's just so many
Right.
different avenues that women have that I don't think men are, afforded from
Right.
the day they were born. So I want to see men who do manage their emotions and really start speaking out about it being okay to have thoughts and to have
Wow.
feelings, and that there's ways to manage those triggers and a process, and the importance of communicating that to your partner. I think so many men have to just stay in their heads with all their stuff or in their hearts with it, and communication is the number one thing. We can't nobody can address an issue if they don't know that there's a problem,
So if they
or
can't
there's even a
identify
thought
it.
around it. Not that it's a problem, but that you just have a thought about something.
Right.
And having a safe space to be able to assert that so that you ultimately do get your needs met.
Wow, that is a blessing that she challenged men in general. So that's one challenge. You get 2 more now. You can make it count. It could be your favorite star. I challenge Whoopi Goldberg. But you
Does
can
she
challenge.
know you challenged
Not yet.
her? Not
We're in
yet.
the process of launching. She's about to know. So you can challenge anybody. You get 2 more. Who else?
I don't know.
Any therapists that you know of?
My colleague
Tell
Mark Coulter.
Mark Coulter. He's a therapist.
He's a therapist right next door.
You just been challenged, Mark Coulter. And who else? What more? We want to make it fun for people to talk about this.
Right. What about Jonathan Height-Smith?
Say it.
Jonathan Height-Smith, you've been challenged.
You have been challenged to the Rebuild Your Mind Mental Health Challenge by Calyn Crow. All three, men in general, Mark Coulter, another therapist, and
I have one more.
we're gonna let you get 4. You go ahead and get your 4th one.
Annie Davies.
Go. Say
Annie
it right
Davies, you've been challenged.
And who is Annie Davies?
So she works in Fort Collins right now, but she's primarily worked in nonprofits.
In the mental health
In
community?
the mental health community.
Oh, we're gonna send this to her. Yes.
And I think she's just a really big community advocate and always kind of taking to heart important social issues, and I think she's someone that might have something to say.
You heard Calyn Crow from Rocky Mountain Solutions. She did 4 challenges. That's special. I'm Markel Taylor. This is ABO's Marketing. We are glad to join the mental health community, specifically Calyn Crow. We thank you, Izat Magazi, Nina Minagawa, all of the doctors behind us, Jared Thiel, Men's Mental Health Transition Unit, ABO's Marketing, and now Rocky Mountain Solutions has joined the Rebuild Your Mind Mental Health Challenge and Initiative. It's time for us to bridge the gap, and we ask everybody join this. It's time to save lives. You see us here today with Calyn Crow. She is an absolute blessing. Talked about her own issues. Talked about how she would transform Colorado. And spoke about the importance of us working collectively to change lives. You are a change agent. We thank you tremendously. And our goal is to get this to the entire world. It is.
Thank you.
We love you. Doctors can't prescribe. Doctors can prescribe medication, but only we can prescribe the love. And that's what we want to prescribe to this community. Thank you for listening to us. It's time that we're signing off ABO's Marketing. Thank you so much. Appreciate you.